Okay, so in this first video, we're going to be going over keyboard shortcuts in Excel that you already know. And if you haven't used Excel much before, you've never used it before, you might be wondering exactly what I mean. Well, what I mean is that in Excel, there are some shortcuts that are commonly used in Windows, in Word, and other Microsoft Office programs, and pretty much any other program that also work in Excel. And I'll just start by giving you a few examples of these. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because I'm operating under the assumption that you probably know a lot of these already, but we will go over them briefly and then you'll see how they work in Excel and how some of them work pretty much the same and some of them are a little bit different. The first thing to note is that the arrow keys still work. So starting out here in cell C2, we can just press the down arrow key, the right arrow key to move to the right, the left arrow key to move left, and so on and so forth. And you might be thinking that this is a really slow way to navigate because we're going one cell at a time right here, and you might be tempted to use the mouse. Well, resist the temptation to use the mouse because in the next video we will be going into how you get through this quickly. But for now, just keep in mind that if you're trying to move from one cell to another cell and they're right next to each other, the easiest way to do that is just to use the arrow keys on your keyboard. So up to move up, down to move down, left to move left, and then right to move right. And this works in a lot of Microsoft Office programs, and it works just as well, pretty much the same exact way in Excel as well. And then some other commands that are the same from other Windows programs are cut, copy, and paste. And they use the same exact shortcut keys. Copy is Control C, and we're just going to go down to Holly's right here with the down arrow key, and then copy that with Control C. Paste is Control V, just like every other Windows program. And then cut is Control X. We'll go back to Holly's and do that. So Control X to cut, and then Control V to paste Holly's right over here. So it works pretty much the same way as in any other Windows program, pretty much exactly what you'd expect. And now let's just move the Holly's back over the customer header just to get it back in place. So we'll press Control X there to cut it, and then Control V to paste it. And then similar to cut, copy, and paste, another command that's the same between Excel and pretty much any other Windows program is delete. So let's move over to Holly's over here, the one that we pasted in all the way on the left side of the page, and we'll just hit the delete key and it goes away. And when you're in Excel, you should always be using the delete key to delete cells. Don't use backspace because you'll end up with extra spaces. Be very careful to avoid pressing backspace. Always use the delete key to delete the contents of cells when you're using Excel. And then another key that is the same in Excel and pretty much any other Windows program is the undo and redo function. So undo undoes the last action that you performed, and then redo reperforms it again. So the shortcut for that in any Windows program is Control Z. So Control Z, and we see that our Holly's is now back there. And then to redo it, we press Control Y, and now we see that it's gone. So Control Z to undo and then Control Y to redo. Works in any Windows program, including Excel. You'll find yourself using it all the time in Excel as well. And then another shortcut that is common in Word and other programs is select all. So selecting the entire area of the screen or selecting the entire area of the document. The shortcut for that is just Control A. So we'll move up to here to cell A1 and press Control A. And we see that everything is selected. Works the same in Word and Excel. You won't find yourself using this quite as much in Excel as you might in Word, for example, but it can still be useful. And then to get back and to deselect it, we just press the up arrow key or the down arrow key and we get out of that. Then the next set of keys that is the same between Excel and pretty much any other Microsoft Office program are the commands for opening a file, creating a new file, and then printing the file. And to open any file would just be Control O. So you can go and do that and open whatever you want. To create a new file, in this case in Excel, we would actually be creating a new workbook because that's what an Excel file is called, a workbook. It's Control N. We see it right here. And then to print, just like any other Office program, is just Control P. We see the print dialog come up right there. So those keys, the Control O, Control N, and Control P, are shared between many Microsoft Office programs and they work in Excel. You'll find yourself using them all the time in Excel as well. Now to get out of this, we press Escape on the print dialog, And escape, by the way, works to get out of pretty much anything in Excel, whether it's or formula or anything else you're doing. Escape will always work to get yourself out of it. But now that we've done that, we see that we actually have a problem now because we have this new workbook, this new Excel file open, and we want to get back to our previous file, the original file that we started with. So how do we do that? And the way you would close this file in Excel is you press Control F4 to close an individual file. So Control F4 to close it. Do that right now, Control F4, and now we're back to the original file. Now there's a difference between closing a file and closing the program. Closing the program in Excel would be Alt F4. So if we press the Alt F4 key now, we see we get this prompt. Do you want to save the changes you made to Excel Navigation 02? We'll just go to cancel for now because we want to keep this file open. But Control F4 would close the individual file, and then Alt F4 would actually close Excel itself. Another keyboard shortcut that's shared between Excel and a lot of other programs in Windows is saving the file. So to save a file, you just press Control S. So Control S will always keep your file saved. It's a good idea to hit Control S periodically because Excel does have an autosave function, but it has been known not to work completely correctly and consistently. So pressing Control S pretty frequently is actually a good idea when you're using Excel. And then a few other shortcuts that are the same between Excel and Word and other Microsoft Office programs are the find and replace commands. And the find command is just Control F. So we'll enter Control F right now. And let's search for Hollies. Find next. We'll just press enter to do that. And we see that it finds Hollies for us. We'll press escape to get out of this. So Control F to find works in Excel, works in any other Microsoft Office program. You'll find yourself using it all the time in Excel, especially when you're working with a data set like this, as opposed to just a financial model. So it's really important to keep that in mind. And then another related command is the find and replace one. And Control H will give us the find and replace command. So we just have this one cell selected right now. So let's just enter Control H and see what happens. So find what? Hollies. Let's enter daisies for what to replace it with. And we will hit Alt R to do that. And we see that it has now changed to daisies. And to get that back, we can either go to find and replace again and we can swap them, or the easier way is just to press Control Z to undo it, which is what we just did there. So Control Z to undo that. And then the other really important shared command to keep in mind with Excel and other Windows programs is Alt Tab to switch between different programs, different windows. So to give you an example of why this is important, let's say that you're not doing anything at work and you're watching YouTube. And this actually happens more often than you think because there's a lot of downtime in investment banking and in finance in general. So let's say you're on YouTube or something, and then one of your superiors comes by and you want to look like you're doing something. Well, you have to get really good at pressing Alt Tab very quickly to get back into Excel. And you may think I'm joking about this, but it's actually pretty important to get quick at using Alt Tab and just using it to cycle through your different programs like I just did here. And Alt Tab will give you a list of the programs that are open right now. If you hold down Alt and then keep pressing Tab, you'll just cycle through them. So those are the important keyboard shortcuts to keep in mind in Excel that you probably already know from other Windows programs, but which also work in Excel. And to get some practice with doing this, here's what I want you to do. I want you to open a new workbook in Excel using the shortcuts that we just learned. And then I want you to go back to this workbook that we have open, copy something from here into that one, then do a find and replace on it, and then close that file and come back to this original one. And so the way we're going to do this is I'm going to show you exactly how to do that right now, but I'm not going to tell you the shortcuts I'm using. And then you're going to pause the video, you'll try it yourself, and then if you get stuck or you can't figure it out, then you can unpause it, and then I'll walk you through it and give you the actual shortcuts that I'm using. So here's how I'm going to do it. First thing I'll do is open this new workbook in Excel. Then I'm going to go back to our original notebook. I'm going to copy the Hollies right here, go back to the other one, and then I'm going to paste it right here. And I want to change the text, so I'm going to do find and replace. And I'm going to replace it with daisies. And now that we have that, I'm going to actually close this file, and I'm going to go back to the original one. I want to save changes. Okay, so I want you to pause this video right now, and then I want you to do it yourself in Excel, and then unpause it, check your work. Also unpause if you get stuck or you don't remember the shortcuts. And then once you come back, I'll walk you through how to do it, and I'll give you the shortcuts this time so you can check your work. Okay, so here's how you do it with the shortcuts this time. So to open a new workbook in Excel, it's Control N, Control N. So we have that. And then to get the data that we're going to copy, we do Alt-Tab to switch between programs. So we go back to the original one. When we get to Holly's, we press Control-C to copy it. Then to switch back to the new one, we press Alt-Tab again. Now to get to the cell B2, we press the down arrow key and then the right arrow key. And then to paste it, we press Control-V. And then to do the find and replace, we press Control-H. And we just type in daisies right there. And we can just hit Alt-R. Whenever you're in Excel and you see things that are underlined, the way you access them is you press the Alt key and then whatever letter it gives you. So in this case, we see that the R is underlined there. So we hit Alt-R to replace it. We press Escape to get out of this, to exit the dialog. And then we want to close this file, so we press Control F4 to close this. We don't want to save the changes, so we just say no. And then we're back to our original file. We can press Escape to get out of this copy right there. So those are the basic commands that you probably already know from other Windows applications that also carry over and can be used in Excel. So that's it for our first video. In the next lesson, we're going to be going into some of the basic navigation that you need to use in Excel that's specific to the program, and I'll show you how to move around very quickly, much more quickly than you can with the mouse or with just pressing the arrow keys as we did here.